Hi folks, welcome to the shop. We're going to be working on a Husqvarna today. I picked this one up at a yard sale, go figure. And let's see what model we got here. Looks like a YTH 20 F42. If you haven't already figured it out, Husqvarna is very good about telling you what you've got just from the model number. The 20 means it's 20 horsepower, and a 42 means it's a 42-inch cut. So you can pretty much look at the side of a mower made by Husqvarna and figure out most of what you need to know about it. Also, powered by Kohler. Now, Kohler makes some pretty good engines. This isn't one of them. This is the Kohler Courage. And I don't know if this was some kind of gag on the part of the company, like calling a large man tiny, or if maybe it referred to how much courage you have to trust this thing. But the Kohler Courage is one of the worst motors ever made. When it works great, but it's like making an engine out of tissue paper and powering it with dynamite. The motor is not built to take the amount of power it creates. And that's not all. There's more. It's a, what would you call that? A bucket case. Which means not a basket case, although it ain't far from it. So basically what it is the block is built completely different than most other small engines, including different than most Kohler's previous motors. The previous motors Kohler made, I've got one over here, single cylinder, it's a Pro. And as you can see, the bottom of the case will come off. This is the bottom. That's where the shaft sticks out, where the belts are. This bottom will come off, and the whole top, well, it's made backwards. The one over there is made backwards. It is made like a bucket with a lid, and the lid is not really capable of containing the power in the bucket, and the bucket is too weak to really contain the power at all. I'll show you more here. Let me get the stand set up and take the hood off, and we'll get more in depth into this thing. Chances are I don't see oil everywhere, so chances are this one hasn't detonated. It really hasn't had time to, although I've seen them detonate with less than 100 hours. This one has, it says 335. The 5 is a little goofy. And as weathered as that is, and as much as this has sat outside, I'm going to say that is probably right. But when I bought it, the guy said it doesn't run very well. That's everything he had for me. Doesn't run very well. I looked it over and decided it was straight enough. I'd take a chance on it. I've got other motors. I've got a couple of V-twins, so I could drop one of them in here if I needed to. But let's see if we can get this one working. There's some preventative stuff you can do to it to make them not detonate, at least not as quick, maybe even at all if you catch it early enough. But let's get this thing apart. So I'm going to put you in the stand, and we'll start poking and prodding and see if it squeals. All right, let's start taking this lid off and see what's inside. The air ratchet, so the loud noises. Ooh, that's a tight one. A little more. Little moss, I think. All right. That's got 4. Any more? Nope. All right. Before we get too far, we'll find a rag. think we ought to check this oil. I don't recall that I've ever looked at it, so I probably haven't. Okay. These things have a dipstick that really defies removal. I don't know why it's made that way. We are over full. Oh, yeah. Here, smell. She is clean up to here. Full was here. And it has that delicious gas smell. Yum. All right, well, this has to come out before you can take that cover off. I believe I've got a carburetor and some other parts to fit this. Okay, dusty, dirty, yuck. All right, so I'm going to bring you around this side. Let's see if I can find a spot conducive to what we're doing here. Okay, so as you can see, this motor is built upside down. This whole chunk from the bottom where she's bolted to the mower all the way up to here, one piece. This cylinder here, the jug, is cast into the block just like it would be on any other mower, but it's upside down. This top plate is what holds this whole thing together. What happens is these bolts vibrate loose. And when these bolts vibrate loose, they tend to crack right along here. And they will split all the way to the bottom if you give them enough time. You'll generally catch it before that happens. What'll generally happen is as these bolts loosen, oil starts hemorrhaging over the side. And some people are like, oh, I got an oil leak. Well, that sucks. I wonder what's causing that. And just keep trucking. Well, if you keep trucking, once this top plate is loose, there is nothing keeping that cylinder from getting punched right at the end of the engine. This engine makes a positively ridiculous amount of power for its size and its weight. That sounds like a good thing, but it is not. Because with this weak case that they've put on this, when that goes off, when the gas air mix goes off and it pushes against that piston, it's also pushing against this cylinder. It's pulling that cylinder out. And the weak spots here in the front is what gives. And the reason it gives is because these bolts come loose. And because it's kind of a wimpy design to begin with. But if those bolts have never come loose, it's never a problem. Now, had they Loctited the bolts, say from this one all the way over to here, there wouldn't be a problem. I'm going to scrounge up some Loctite, and we're going to do that before we send it. But so far, so good. The engine is not locked up. Oh yeah, good compression. I like that. Definitely. Nothing wrong there. The oil and the gas. There's something wrong there. It has a lot of leaking going on. There's a considerable amount of oil here, but I guarantee it's all coming from this valve cover. These valve covers, again, very poorly designed. It's like they're made to leak. They're kind of like my old Ford. If you haven't seen it, I've got a 72 Ford F250 with a 360 FE motor, and the valve covers on it aren't much better. They're designed to leak. And you can get them to not leak and seal, but you can't run like a modern PCV setup on it because they will suck vacuum all around those, and it doesn't seem like it can be fixed. I put fabricated valve covers on that thing and clamped them down appropriately, didn't over tighten them, and they still suck wind. So that's one of the things we're going to have to change some other, but that's a video for another time. Today, we've got this derelict. Honestly, this is looking pretty good. there is no oil leakage around this edge. That little bit that you're seeing there goes on around, and it's from sucking oil from here, I'm sure. Now, how we got oil in a gas? Well, this is a fuel pump motor. There's a fuel pump right up here. And so the tank will be under the seat instead of there. And so sitting out in the heat can kind of force some past the pump, hot, cold, hot, cold. Usually, though, there's a vent, and I'm sure this one has, I don't know where, but, well, maybe it don't. I'm not seeing it. Usually there's a vent, we'll find it if there is, that goes to the carburetor to suck up those noxious, terrible gasoline fumes that are just going to kill us all. Cough, cough. But normally you couldn't pressurize that tank very well. So the alternative is the float is stuck on the carburetor, and while this thing is running, it is pushing more gas than it can handle, and every time you turn it off, a little bit gets in the crankcase. That don't really seem likely. So it must not be a vented tank, at least not in the way you'd expect. Or the vent's clogged, or it's been disconnected, or something. Somehow gas has got in that crankcase. There's no cracks in the block that I can see anywhere. This all looks quite good, honestly. So, what we really need to do is see if she'll go. I mean, she should. I don't see why she wouldn't. But it's never 100% unless you test it. We need a battery, which I have, a brand new battery. Because as you can see, when I first got this, there was a hole here where the battery goes. And because of that, I deduced it needed a battery. So I bought one. And I came prepared. So, oh, and this is something that you may or may not know. This has the magnetic clutch for the blades. It's you pull a little knob up here and it goes click, and there's a magnet down in the bottom that connects the pulley and allows the pulley to spin and power the blades. Those require a bigger battery. This was a 340 amp. That's the kind I would generally recommend for this kind of thing. And the reason that it requires a bigger battery is that thing pulls 8, 9, 10 amps by itself. The charging system is very large on this, but if your battery's weak and you try to run it straight off the charging system, you're going to burn up something. Usually the clutch, but sometimes even the charging system. So you have got to have Big Bertha battery in this thing, or you're just asking for trouble. It's also why you can't just swap any old motor in here. It has to be a motor with a high output generator. And generally one that has the little pull push button is one that will have the high output. So we got pretty decent bolts, honestly. And these connections, I have seen much worse. All right, I'm going to hook that battery up. Looks like we're dealing with 7/16 today. 7/16 from the wall of wrenches. All right. Let me get that camera straightened up a little bit. Going to put the hot on first. And we're going to do that so we can't short on nothing. Always want to put the hot on first, even if it hurts. Looks like this battery is a little backwards. I think they wanted the terminals in the back instead of the front, but the one I took out was just like it. So it's not going to matter. They reach, but obviously it was meant to have the reverse wired one. Walmart's selection is often not good enough to get you the battery you really need, and you end up with a battery that'll hopefully fit. That's good and snug. Go around the other side. One thing about working on mowers, I seem to have an endless supply of stained, greasy awful looking clothes to wear while working on them. And if you don't have those when you first start, you will soon. It's best to, well, I go to yard sales and thrift stores and other places specifically to get clothes that I don't care what happens to. I don't care how dirty they get, because that's what's going to happen. Okay, I'm going to put that dipstick tube back in, because I got to tell you, I've seen these shoot oil and bits and spluts out of there. It's already over full. And I'd really like to change that oil, but for just testing purposes, all we want to do is hear this thing hit and go, and then we don't care from there. Pretty sure if there's any gas in this tank, I don't know that there is. Oh my God, the smell. Wow. That gas is turning back into a dinosaur. That's pretty rotten. Okay, I guess we're going to go with the whole starting fluid, because I got to tell you, I don't have any hope of that gasoline working at all. Take this air cleaner loose. They do put a pretty decent air cleaner setup on these, I'll give them that. Get this camera brought over here. There we go. That's loose. This is very near it. There we go. Cover's fairly clean inside. This air cleaner. It's not too bad. All right. So we're going to lock the parking brake. We're going to find where the gas goes in. It looks like that's over here. Going to hit the key and see what happens. It runs. We have a runner. All right. That was a significant cloud that blew out of there. And I don't know if you noticed, but it was black. That's gas. So that means this thing has been sitting here with an excess amount of gas, probably in the intake manifold, and some of it maybe even in the cylinder, although it turned over by hand, so I knew it wouldn't hydrolock. We really got to change that. So I'm going to open the door and vent that smoke out of here that I wasn't expecting. We're going to change the oil. I think I got a carburetor. Let me see what I got over here. Oh yeah. Yeah, I got a carburetor right there. Got an intake. We're in pretty good shape here. I believe we got everything we need. This filter, honestly, might blow out, but we're not going to use it. I'm going to show you why. Looks like a mouse chewed right there. And anywhere there's a compromise like that, dirt can get through and come in this side. And I don't know that that's completely safe. Well, it's not. I can't get my finger in it. Can't pick it apart with my fingernail. That might actually be okay, but we're going to give them a new one. I'll keep this one for an emergency or something. Blow it out. And if it don't blow out good, it's still going in the whizzer, because there's no point keeping a dirty one around. But yeah. Okay. Let's put this stuff aside. I believe we need to put a carburetor on it. All right, let me air out this place, and I'll be back. Alright, I got you moved around here where hopefully you can see. I went to put a socket on this. I was going to take this off with the air ratchet, and you can barely get a thin wrench in there, and this is a thin wrench. So a socket, wonder if a 12 point would have made it. A 6 point certainly wouldn't. I don't know that a 12 points. Yeah, this wrench won't even hardly go on there. That is tight. Come out of there. It's 10 millimeter. The cover screws were 8. I don't know what is this fascination with metric they've got on these old Kohler motors, but maybe they're not made here. Maybe they're Japanese or something. Alright, let me get this off. You know, I honestly don't know. I've never looked. Check oil level before starting engine. That's good advice usually, but in this one it's really good advice. Oh, but the clean air index is like 2.5 out of 10. That doesn't fill me with confidence about its horsepower. Generally speaking, anything you do to make your emissions better makes your engine worse. Sneak that hose out of there. It goes in the back. And just ease him out of the way. Now this should walk right out of here. Oh yeah. Ugh, spiders. I got a thing about spiders. My thing is I don't do spiders. I say, get out of there. Okay. Now, we got some wire pluggage here that may or may not come off easy. Come on, twist or something. What are you doing? Where do you plug in? Is it this one? Well, it's this one. Wow, that's hot. I must have the key on. Bad Larry. All right. Well, and this wire here is the other half, and that's wired straight in. Why would you do that? I don't know. Now this will come out. It's got that one. Now, for these things, that is about as long a linkage as one could ever expect. That's like a foot of linkage if you straightened it out. Appears to be in good shape, but wow. All right. This carburetor should be loose. Of course, the gasket. There it goes. Yeah, that's loose now. Okay. The idea with these is much like every other carburetor. You're going to have to take it off. What's this? What is that attached to? No idea. You have to take it off and then turn the carburetor out from under to give these a chance to escape. They don't just come off easy on the other end. So that's really your only choice. So ease this thing back as gently as you can, like so. And then turn the carburetor. You know, if I got that fuel line out of my way, it'd probably be a lot easier. That fuel line, it's okay-ish. I might be changing it. All right, we're going to need the pliers. Let's see here. Get a hold of that clamp. Maybe. Oh, wow, that clamp is part of the resistance. Okay. Twist. Always twist first. Get it cracked loose. Then it should come right off. Should be able to just walk it back if you can get under it. And that's usually best. screwdriver or something under it. But right now, I'm not having the most luck with that. Let me try wiggling it a little, see if I can get under it then. Yeah, I need a screwdriver. Let's see, if I were a flat screwdriver. There we go. Let's slip that behind that fuel line. Right back here. And just ease it off of there. Just a little more. There we go. She's coming now, and she's off. And I noticed no gas came pouring out of there, so... That's interesting. Normally, when this pump runs up here, when that pump runs, it'll suck some gas through. I noticed that filter is got just a little what looks like water in the bottom of it. It's not a good sign either. Well, guess one of those things where we'll find out. All right, let's get the linkage off of this. And that, what is holding that? Hope? What? Oh, it's a Torx. Okay. It's a Torx. Please don't be one of them safety Torxes with the little pin in the middle, like you're going to steal something. Yeah, it's not. It's a normal one. Let me find the Torx that fits that. I think it's this size, just as a wild guess, but we might be going back for another one. Nope, I got lucky. Crack that baby loose. These little T-handle Torx wrenches, I got these at Harbor Freight. They're pretty good, and they're pretty cheap. Both of those things are advantageous. All right, come out of there, you. Okay, that little screw. Now, I may be replacing that wire anyway. It may come with a carburetor, so might have just wasted some time there. This is stuck somehow. Oh, of course, there's a wire tie. They wire tied it. Nippy cutters. Always have a set of nippy cutters. If I can get to it. There it is. Wire tie. Right in the trash. Okay. Now, those needle noses, we got this little spring here. All it really does is keep this tight in the hole. There's maybe some small amount of slop there. And when that's there, it keeps it from surging because of airspace. Because believe it or not, if there's a little wiggle room there, this thing would surge. And if you've got carburetor you know is good with one of these springs, double check, because you'll end up chasing a problem that doesn't even exist. You'll think it's surging when it's really just a spring. Boy, that spring is kind of stupidly located. It's hung back in there. It is not wanting to come out. Really? How hooked can you be? All right. And you got to be careful. Let me come around the other side, see if I'm doing something wrong. I know what it could be. Oh, that's the spring right there. It should be coming right out of that hole. There. I think I bent it a little bit. All right, that turns out, they both turn this way. So what we're doing now is kind of pull and wiggle. That should just walk right out like that. And that should be a lot easier. And here is our deceased Walboro carburetor. Well, pretty good carburetor. Honestly, it's got an adjustment here in the front for your idle mix. You don't get that every day. A pretty good set of gaskets on it. You can tell they're good because they have words. If they got words on the front, that's a good gasket. Okay. That was sarcasm. All right, let's see here. In my box of fancy stuff, we got, I never before looked at until just now, carburetor that I hope is right. Yep, and it has an adjustment screw too, but it's kind of countersunk in there. That's not going to affect it, other than it would have been nice if it wasn't sunk in there. But it'd be okay. We got 2 gaskets, hooray for that. We got a brand new wire. This one plugs in, which I can't tell you how much I like that better, instead of this whole pulling a screw business. Oh wait, I told a lie. It's got a screw. Damn. Okay, well, and a zip tie, because why wouldn't you want a zip tie? But anyway, this is one of those Chinese carburetors. They're not the best, don't get me wrong, but 75% of them are great. Occasionally get a bad one, but most of the time you don't. Most of the time you get a just perfect carburetor. All right, now, just look at this for a minute and figure out what goes where. This one, okay, that'd be the choke, and that would be the throttle. You gotta be kidding me. I have to recycle my little piece of plastic. Well, that's just asinine. Alright, so what I'm talking about is this little plastic piece right here that pin goes in. You get to use your old one because there's a hole it goes in. Alright, if you gotta be that way, I'm gonna have to needle nose pliers. I'm gonna have to finagle this a little, see if it'll come out. I don't want to squeeze it very hard. I'm just pushing it enough that it'll pop past. There's a little, there it went. It's a little catch like on it, like an arrowhead. There's little catchers back there. I guess that's good, keep it from falling out and all, but kind of a pain when you're trying to get it out. There, and it's in the new one now. Okie dokie then. That's the business end of the carburetor. We're going to need the rag that I had and since lost. Let me find a rag and mop that off a little. I don't like putting them on dirty. Mostly because they leak. And I gotta tell you, vacuum leaks are one of the hardest things to chase down. If you go through and don't create any as you go, you're gonna be a lot happier. Alright. Let me see. We can clean that up a little. It's not real bad, but there is a little schmoo around there. I don't know if you can see that. There's little crumbs and junk we don't want in there. It's all things that could just compromise. And this is the important seal. This one. The other one, not as much. The other one, between the air box and the carburetor, I mean, you want one, you want it sealed. You want something there. But as far as being one of those things where it's life and death, it honestly isn't. All right, let me look at my wires and see what I do and don't have to change. Oh joy, I do have to change that. Okay. Because this one plugs in there together. This is 2 separate wires on this machine. But on this one, if you want to use that plug, this is what you're doing. So I have to remove this green one and replace it here. Are you 8mm is the question, or do I need to go get yet another tool? You feel kind of loose. I feel like not 8mm. Oh, it's close enough. It'll be all right. Get that in there. Come on. Okay. That's got a star washer. I'm not surprised. Just have to look at this and be sure we put everything back the way we took it off. Okay, we got a star washer. On the back side, right there. So I'm going to put that in here. Just like that. And that replaces it. Now, put this in. And you notice this thing started flopping around now. This plastic nonsense. It's part of the heat shield, so it's not really nonsense. It's kind of life and death critical must-have stuff. But the fact that this is holding it on there, that's nonsense. All right, we're going to take the air off of this ratchet. Because I want to feel this tighten up gently. I don't want to go, okay. Yeah, that's a, oh yeah, that's just too tight. Okay. Just a dab more. Good. Don't want to break it off. It's pretty tight. Okay. Now we're going to need our carburetor. Feels like it works. Alright. Linkages. This, I guess I could do that. This wire right here plugs into there. Loosely, apparently. Now, what you do in a situation like that, if you didn't already know, and you probably did, is you get your pliers and you very gently give it a squeeze. Well, this plastic is about petrified, so I'm having to be extra careful so I don't shatter it too. Still not up to my standards. Put that in the very back. I don't want to overdo it. I got to be so gentle. I just want to egg shape it. Just, ooh, that sounded perfect. Yeah, I didn't crack anything. No. Perfect. Now it stays together. That's what we wanted. All right, let's get this carburetor gasket. Gasket. It's going to be this one. Come out of the box. Stupid big fat ham hands. All right, that'll go here. Slide that baby right on up there. Looks good. Then this goes in that side. I have to turn this around. That little plastic piece, I don't know that you can see that on this camera, but this little plastic piece has a notch in it. And one side of the notch is deeper than the other. When you insert this, it goes in like so, and then turns, and this part, this end part of that rod goes into this larger piece of this notch, the one that goes almost all the way up to the metal. If you put it in backwards, and you certainly can, this side, again, I don't know if you can see that very well, but this side is not as deep. It only goes up about halfway and stops, and you will booger up that piece of plastic. It'll bind, it won't work. You'll throw a wrench at it. Ask me how I know. Alright, get that in here. Perfectamundo. We get this one here. And we've already got the gasket. We're just gonna ease that baby in there. Come on, there you go. A little more, there you go. Just like that. And then we've got the other gasket for the airbox, blah, 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 blah. But I think for the time being, we're gonna plug this. Oh yeah, my brand new spiffy plug, very different than the old one. It goes in the front, looks like, or the bottom. Bottom. So it says. Maybe I'm backwards. Yep. Nope. What seems to be the problem? This way again. Yeah, we're gonna fight that for a little bit. Yeah, this definitely must go the other way. It didn't even start. Really? Let me scoot you around here. I hope you can still see from there. We're gonna have a fight on our hands here. Those little pins go in those little holes. Oh, it's just good and tight. It's going. There, pop. Okay. Bueno. Now, I'm going to zip tie this again because I like to think I'm a glutton for punishment. I'll put that around here. I'm doing that because this plug does not adequately cover. There's no insulation there. I don't know why. And there ain't a good way to put it on there without cutting, stripping, and starting over. And it'll be fine as long as it don't touch nothing, which is the point of the zip tie that I'm putting on right now, so that it cannot get to anything to touch it. That's on there. Now, for a professional look, you want that zip tie to just be dangling out there like this, so that people know you put a zip tie on it. But since I'm an amateur, I'm going to cut that baby off as close as I can reasonably be expected to. Oh, and that's the other thing when you cut off a zip tie, if you would please, for the rest of us that work on stuff. See that sharp piece sticking out there? Well, when you cut that zip tie off and it's sticking out of that little square piece, butt it right up against there. Try and have some flush cutters and cut it, because if you've got a little piece like this sticking out of there and somebody goes reaching in, they're going to carve themselves up with that. Gotta hate that. But you have it so often. All right, we got to get that little spring on there. For that, I would like to have my needle nose pliers, but I may try it without it. Let's see here. If I can get a hold of it. It's like pulling on a hair. Oh, what luck that was. Went right on. Okay. Do we want to put the airbox back on first? Or do we want to put the bolts on this, just test it and see if it'll run? Decisions. We're going to have to test that fuel pump, but we're going to have to get whatever fuel's in it out, because and God, I hope I don't have to take this thing apart and take the fuel tank out, because it wouldn't be the first time I've had to do that. Well, let's see. I say we're going to have to take the airbox off again anyway, because this thing's filthy. It's got to be washed. It's not as bad as the last one, But it's bad enough that it really could stand the power washer. This oil all caked up here. I'm going to have to change that seal anyway, but I'd like to have that clean first. Let's find the nuts. The nuts. Right here. Oh yeah, that's what I got these magnet bowls for. Okay. And here. I don't like that nut. And I don't like it because it is completely covered in schmoo. Right back here where you put the wrench. Clean that up a little. That's a little better. It ain't 100%, but it is better. Huh. There's still threads. It's just slowing down right there. Why? Something wrong with those threads? Full of schmoo? A little bit. Let me get my ratchet, or my wrench. I guess I can't get a ratchet in there. And see if it's really tight or if it's just... No, it's going. Okay, that would be tight enough. Let me check that coil, make sure it's making the sounds we like. I don't know if you can hear that. Let me get closer. That is the sound we want. When you first turn the key on, this little solenoid pops open. It sucks a little piece down in there and lets gas through to the jet. When you turn the engine off, the spring pops it back up, blocks off the jet. The idea is it's anti-backfire solenoid. It's meant to keep gas and air mix from going on through the engine because you shut the spark off. That's how you kill the engine. And as it's winding down, it's still sucking gas through. So that gas and air mix goes down in the muffler. And if that muffler is as red hot as they usually are, because for emissions, they run engines kind of lean, you're going to get a kaboom. It's usually not going to hurt anything. Might blow the exhaust gasket out. That's about the worst. It's not really going to hurt anything. Not going to tragically damage something beyond repair. But what it is going to do is scare the crap out of you and your neighbors. They're going to think it's gunfire. And so that little solenoid down here prevents that. Well, let me get shuffled around here for our next step, but I think our next step is going to be to put a piece of fuel line in here, fill it up with some fuel, and prop it here somewhere, zip tie it, maybe, I don't know. I need a portable gas can for things like this, but I don't really have one. And then we're going to light this up and see if it runs with this carburetor. It doesn't have an air cleaner, so it might be just a twitch lean, but it should be close enough it'll run okay. All right, we'll be back here in just a minute. All right, this video is running a little bit long. I think we're going to have to pick this one up in the next one. But anyway, stay tuned, hit the next button, and like and subscribe if you actually like this video. I may be going into too much detail. I may not be going into enough. Let me know in the comments what you think. Thanks for watching.